Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be here with you on this occasion to join in the presentation of this Greatest Generation Awards. I don't know how many of you on the way in might have stopped at that large stone over there and read the engraving on it. But I took a moment to write it down. I want to read it to you, and on the way out you can check out my reading against what's on the stone. Here in the presence of Washington and Lincoln. Washington and Lincoln are the 18th century father, and the other the 19th century preserver of our nation. We honor here the 20th century Americans who took up the struggle during the Second World War and made the sacrifice to perpetuate the gift our forefathers entrusted to us, a nation conceived in liberty and justice. It's exceedingly appropriate that we would gather here to present these awards. And I'm really honored to be in the presence of General Corcus, who really is a living legend, and what he contributed to the Greek forces, well, throughout his career, but particularly through World War II, was extraordinary. And my good friend from the Congress, John Dingell, we're very honored to see him and to have him here today. Jim Chanos, thank you very much. We need to know more history, and we thank you very much for giving us that history lesson. I think it's exceedingly important. And Derek Challet, it was good of you to come. We thank you very much. We know you just got off a plane coming back from Europe, and so we're honored that you came today to join us. Derek, in fact, quoted Winston Churchill when he spoke. I like the quote he gave about the virtue and the courage of the Greeks and its impact on the outcome of World War II, but the quote I like even better from Churchill, he said, "No longer will we say that Greeks fight like heroes, but instead we'll say that heroes fight like Greeks." And the Greek role has been referenced here in World War II. The Greeks said oihi to the ultimatum on October 28, 1940. The Italians invaded. The Greeks threw them back and drove them back. The Germans, before they went to invade Russia, figured they had to take care of this problem on their flank. And as been alluded here today, they were delayed 2 to 3 months in the invasion of the Soviet Union, and as a consequence, they got caught up in the Russian winter. And Napoleon couldn't handle it, and Hitler couldn't handle it, and that was an important contribution to winning the war. Now, when we didn't go into the war, of course, until December of 1941. Hitler invaded Poland in September of 1939. And the British and the French went to war at that point with Germany. Christopher Mehiel couldn't wait. His strong sense of what the importance of what this was all about led him to join the Royal Canadian Air Force ahead of the U.S. entry into World War II. So he joined the Royal Canadian Air Force, still in his teens, I think, almost just out of his teens. Was trained as a pilot. When the U.S. later entered the war, he transferred to the Army Air Corps. So he switched back to the U.S. fighting forces and was deployed to the Far East. In fact, I was looking out there with Christopher's wife at the Pacific. We have the Atlantic over here, we have the Pacific over here. What he did is he flew these aircraft over the hump between India and China. Extremely important mission, bringing in all of the supplies for the elements in China that were fighting the Japanese. He served throughout the war in very important roles, and then after the war, in effect, enlisted in the armed services, the U.S. Army, or in effect stayed in the armed services, and went on to have a very distinguished career in military intelligence, where he traveled to posts all over the world, finally retiring in the 1970s as a colonel. So we're honored to have this privilege here today to present the greatest generation to him. I think it's going to be both to his widow, Estelle Mehiel, and to his son. Bring Dennis up as well, and we have other members of the family here. I do have to share to you one comment that Celeste made about her husband and about her son. She said, "I think it's wonderful that Christopher is being honored. He was an outstanding man. No one can come close to my husband, Chris. Maybe his son, Dennis," she said. I want to say...
I'll settle for maybe.
Maybe. I want to say you sound just like my mother when I talk. So I'm honored to present to the Mehiels their award here.
Oh, thank
today.
you so much. Oh, wow.